Need more information about the white powder that I found at the crime scene. What could this powder possibly be? I think we have a pretty good idea of what this is. I'll have it investigated in any case. Can you please wait?
Dr. Kimishima, about that white powder that was spread on the floor. There were traces of drugs found within it.
And we're not going to talk about it because this is a childish video game.
A number of different
sort
sets
of
of footprints were identified in that
It's like
powder
PG
as well.
video game.
They
Just
all
drugs.
belong to the firefighters, police, and you, of course.
I see. That means...
Let's see. Footprints were found in the drugs were all from firefighters, policemen, and myself. Fell when the fire started. Probably. We're assuming that it's all over the floor everywhere. The killer is a firefighter. Drugs are there for days. Probably not. Dennis committed suicide. Can't confirm that from this. They probably fell when the fire started. Because otherwise there'd be footprints from before that.
Exactly. That would be the case. The room belonged to the deceased. If the drugs had been spread on the floor before the incident, his footprints should be there as well. But the only footprints in the room were from people who had entered after the fire.
Unless, of course, he was wearing fireman shoes.
This would mean that the drugs would have to have been spread before or soon after the fire began.
Okay.
All right, let's go over the information we've gathered. First, the white powder.
Yeah, it's powdered toast. Powdered toast. Oh, I'm sure they... I bet this was localization team 2 stuff. This wasn't just, like, stuff that was from the original game. I bet the localization team had loads of fun with this. It was obviously powdered toast.
Yes, the trail of drugs led directly to the hole behind the shelf. If the same powder from the floor was inside the hole, then...
Place to throw drugs away, a place to hide the drugs. More than likely.
That's right. But there weren't any drugs inside the hole.
So, possibly hypothesis, there was a deal going down, deal went bad, someone stole the drugs, somehow locked the door and escaped? After killing him, of course.
The layer of drugs had footprints from the firefighters, the police, and me left in them. All of the footprints had something in common.
They were made after the fire.
Indeed. There weren't any footprints from before the time the fire began. So from this, we can deduce that the drugs must have been scattered on the floor when...
Just before the fire.
Yes.
More than likely not there for
If
days.
I take this even further, I'd say that it would have been after Mr. Taylor stopped moving. In other words, it must have happened between his death and when the fire started. But why were there drugs on the floor?
Whoever took them dropped them. To lead me to discover the hole. Look at that, that's getting like fourth wall right there. Otherwise, we never would have discovered the hole. Dennis is a slob. He is. We've confirmed that. Ooh. It's gold. Solid evidence. Yeah! Card missing drugs has been obtained. Head evidence card has been completed. Golden cards are treated as evidence in your investigation. I see, so it's... When they're not gold, it's like, these are things we found. And then when they turn gold, it's stuff that we can use to back other things. They do not need to be analyzed or fused with other evidence cards.
Yes, they must have spilled
AK,
out when
we're
someone
done
removed the
with it.
drugs from the hole in the wall. Dennis Taylor was killed, and someone walked out with the drugs. I'm starting to get a clearer picture of what happened here, but there's no proof just yet. I need to move on to the next step. I should consult with the little guy about this.
Wow, I don't know if you guys, you may have noticed, but this is a long thing. I see why they have the save in the middle of it. But assuming this isn't going to take atrociously too much longer, I want to finish it. Okay. Oh.
Dr. Kimishima, have you confirmed that it's a murder after all?
Seems highly likely
I don't
still.
know how you heard about that so quickly, little guy. Have you been eavesdropping on me?
Huh? What? No,
Forget it. I can see right through you.
oh, right, I have a new tool for you. It's luminol. Do I need to explain it to you?
I played 999. I know how luminol works.
A chemiluminescent material based on reducing 5-nitrothalhydrazide with sodium dithionite. It reacts to iron and hemoglobin by glowing, making it useful to find otherwise hidden
Or no,
blood
that
stains.
was Virtue's last reward. That wasn't 999.
Anything else?
No.
Good. I just spray this onto suspicious areas, then shine the ALS on it, right?
Yep.
I'm sure it will be useful. Thank you, little guy.
Luminol is now available. To my understanding, it's basically just for finding blood and I think urine and other such various body fluids. Alright, back to the scene. Now I need to begin investigating the scene again. I would imagine that the bed would be where we want to investigate the most of this. Spray it on everything. Oh. Hey there. Where was it? Yeah, we already know about... Oh, wait. Oh, hey there. What's that?
So there were blood stains here too.
So someone cleaned them up?
If these are from the deceased, we may be able to use this with something else that we know.
Though that would explain where all the rest of the blood went, wouldn't it? Anything over here? She didn't say there's nothing else to see here yet, which makes me think that there's still going to be some more stuff going on here. Everything is suspicious. Nothing can be trusted. Possibly the chain? Hello?
Huh. There's a reaction to blood on this screw that's securing the doorknob. The screw seems rather loose as well.
That seems suspicious.
Come to think of it, the door to this room was chained shut when the fire started. Could this be related to that in some way?
I'm almost sure of it at this point. Anything to note about the fan? Possibly that spot up there and maybe the light switch. Blood on the fan? Really? Why is there blood on the fan?
There's a rope wrapped around the shaft of the ceiling fan. There's no mistake. Those are bloodstains.
Now I'm sure this is going to be a really, mysterious. I'm sure this is going to be really important. What could have happened here? This kind of makes me think of whenever I don't know if anybody ever did this when they were a kid, not saying that it's a good idea, but that it may have happened where you had something like a balloon or even a string or something that you threw up at a fan. Or, I'm saying balloon because balloons kind of drift towards fans. They sometimes do that. And then all of a sudden it gets all tangled up and it screws up your fan. Oh well, let's go back to the office. But it's kind of making me think of that. Like maybe somehow this rope got stuck in the fan. Either accidentally or purposefully. Doesn't look like I'll be able to learn any more from the scene of the crime. I should sort through the information I've gathered. It looks like he wants to talk.
Oh, Dr. Kimishima, sorry for the wait. The analysis of the burnt material has come back from the laboratory. calcium hydroxide was detected in the sample.
Calcium hydroxide? You mean slaked lime?
Yes, small amounts of quicklime were also detected. Quicklime is a substance that releases a great deal of heat when it reacts with water.
Okay.
I see. So this was...
Probably start the fire?
I agree, but isn't it odd? If the killer wanted to start a fire, there are far easier ways to go about it.
Yeah, what's the importance of
You're right.
quicklime?
There must have been a reason for this. It's our job to investigate that, isn't it?
Indeed it is. That's what they pay you for. Burnt chemicals. Do we want to investigate, the screw?
What's this? It just looks like a loose screw to me.
Think harder, little guy. How was the room when the firefighters arrived at the scene? The entrance was closed, but was it completely inaccessible?
The room was locked only by the chain. Do you think somehow there was some device? Maybe like some sort of strange screwdriver that could be used to screw the door from the outside with only the crack open? Because if it was deadbolted, that would be a different situation. But a chain allows you to open the door about maybe 2 inches? If maybe an inch and a half, maybe an inch, I don't know.
That's right.
Enough to get something in
The
there.
door had been attached, but the door itself wasn't locked.
I mean, this is just like basic Umineko reasoning at this point, right?
Sorry, but the door only opens about 15 centimeters with the chain attached.
That's still enough to get something in
I
there.
don't even think a small child could get through a space that small.
Not exactly a person, but a tool.
You're so unimaginative. Flex your mind and think about it. Listen to me. What I'm trying to tell you is...
Killer was able to go through the door with the chain shut by removing one screw, using directed explosives, jump kicking through it. Localization team had to have a whole heck of a lot of fun with that one. Solid evidence, yeah! Locked room trick. And there you go, we don't actually have such a closed room anymore, do we?
This loose screw tells us everything. With the screw removed, the entire plate on the door can be swiveled around by the doorknob. The plate itself is about 20 centimeters long, so the gap increases to almost 35 centimeters. How big does somebody have to be that he couldn't fit through a space that size?
Oh, I see now. That's more than enough room to get past the door.
There you go.
So the killer just screwed the plate back on from the outside after he left the room then.
Whatever tool he had to do that with, maybe it was large enough for him to stick his entire arm through, possibly.
I think that's the most likely explanation. But the killer was in plain sight once he was outside the door. He wanted to finish quickly. The killer couldn't completely tighten the screw and left the area as we found it.
Wow. That proves that this isn't quite the locked room mystery we thought it was.
Bingo.
Huh. Still, this doesn't help us figure out who the killer is.
But it does tell us
I need to investigate the situation in more detail.
something we need to know. That this is in fact not a witch who murdered somebody in a closed room. Let's see. Now we already know about that. You need to analyze the blood, maybe.
Dr. Kimishima, we've identified the blood on the screw.
That was fast.
It's a DNA match with the victim, Dennis Taylor.
Not exactly surprising. I doubt the killer would want to give up his own blood for something like this.
Why would his blood be there, of all places?
It's simple. What happened was...
Dennis touched it. Possibly, not likely. It touched the murder weapon. Blood spatter? Yeah. Nope.
How could I do that?
Oh, no. Killer was finger painting. Yes, he was finger painting with the blood. Touched the murder weapon, maybe?
That's right. It's probably because it touched the murder weapon.
Wait, why would the killer touch that screw with the murder weapon?
That's a good question.
He would have to, if the weapon was...
A screwdriver. Wait, let's think about that. He had a weird star-shaped mark that would match with a screwdriver. Was he stabbed with the screwdriver and that's what killed him? And so, and that messed up his lung and he died from asphyxiation? Real murder
Yes,
weapon.
a screwdriver. It was likely used to both loosen and tighten that screw.
Unless that was your only option, that seems like a very stupid oversight.
I see. Then the screwdriver left the blood on the screw while he was covering his tracks.
It might have been just like a very impulse murder. Dennis did have a stab wound, and we can put that
Yes.
there.
These pieces of information are hiding an important fact. I didn't notice because the bleeding had stopped completely, but this isn't a bruise. It's a stab wound.
Exactly.
This strange pattern here is likely...
A screwdriver's tip. Sheer force of will. Wait, really?
That was careless.
Oh, screwdriver's handle, that makes sense. I don't feel entirely bad about that, but sure.
Yes, that's right.
It did have a small slit in the middle from where that screwdriver actually
It's
pierced through him.
indisputable evidence that the weapon was jammed in so deeply that the grip left a bruise.
Okay. What else can we work with here? Yeah, we can match that with the eye, I bet.
Yes. These do lead the way to a definite
There's
truth.
something kind of exciting about matching clues.
Looking at the location of the bruise, the tip of the screwdriver must have pierced Dennis's lung. His lung would then rupture,
Exactly.
causing pulmonary
That's what it is.
emphysema, and he would have suffocated. This explains the spots of hemorrhaging in the corpse's eyes.
True cause of death.
What actually happened that day is slowly coming to light now.
Can we match Dennis's income? Oh, wait. Bloodstains on the floor.
That's right.
Yeah,
There
that's
were
another
two
one.
different bloodstains left in the deceased's room. Now, which of these bloodstains happened first?
Probably the one on the floor. Because he probably got stabbed, bled there. The killer ended up cleaning that up. And then he cut his wrist on the bed. Moved corpse.
That's true, unless the corpse got up and walked over by itself. It's most likely that the deceased died where the first bloodstains were found, and then was carried to the bed afterwards. That would explain why there was such a small amount of blood on the bed itself.
Ah, and I bet the killer changed his clothing so that it wouldn't look like he was stabbed. Not a very well thought out murder, I'd gotta say. But then again, are most murders ever that well thought out? Let's see. Can we match the true cause of death with that shirt? Nah, not quite. I didn't think it would.
Yes. These two can tell us how the murder happened. On the day of the incident, the killer came to the victim's room and stabbed him in the torso. The murder weapon was...
A screwdriver.
Yes. The screwdriver pierced the victim's lung, causing pulmonary emphysema. This caused respiratory problems due to lung failure. Thus, the cause of death was...
Asphyxiation. This is fun. I like it.
After this, the killer moved the victim to the bed. This is most likely because...
Make it look like a suicide. Make an artistic statement. We figured it out. We figured out how the murder went down.
Indeed. The murderer then arranged the corpse to make the death appear to be a suicide. That is what I believe took place, according to the evidence we have gathered.
Okay, good to know. Can these two be matched? I guess you can't really match those, can you? When did the hand come in? That's a good question. Burnt chemicals. What about the rope? How is the rope related to this? We actually... Hold on. Rope with bloodstains on it was wrapped around the axis of the ceiling fan. Did it break the fan? More than likely, I think.
It's
Oh,
true.
there we
then.
go.
This does have to do with the victim. But I wonder why. I get the feeling that there's something very wrong about this.
We had Dennis's condition of him being depressed, but at the same time, we know that he made a lot of money. 2 accounts from the people who saw Dennis seem to differ dramatically. We've got one of Dennis who seemed to be pretty happy, and he was a drug dealer, made lots of money. Another one from him being depressed. Difference is his behavior. Pretty sure Dennis is definitely dead. Solid evidence! Yeah! Dennis the Pusher.
Indeed. At first glance, it doesn't seem like these refer to the same person at all. On the one hand, drug-dealing scum enjoying his life.
Scum.
On the other, a man with suicidal depression. Either one of these clues is false, or there's more to this shady business that I haven't found out.
I don't like the electrician. He seems suspicious to me.
In either case, the truth of the matter is that he was indeed a drug dealer. I still have doubts. My main concern about this is...
The reason most people use a ceiling fan is for air circulation. Broken fan.
Yes. Fans circulate air within a room.
Man, we went to school a long time for that.
If the owner was having his air system fixed, the fan should have been considered part of it.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Why then would the electrician fix only the heater and not the ceiling fan?
Because the electrician is a lying scumbag. Okay, let's put the fans together.
Yes, these 2 pieces can be combined into one. The rope wrapped around the ceiling fan is what caused it to break.
Seems likely. See, I had some weird thing where it looked like he was like... I had some idea where maybe he tried to like hang himself from the ceiling fan, which seems weird, because then maybe he got bored and that didn't work, so he's like, well, I guess I'll cut my wrist now. Breaking the fan.
The question now is why there was a rope around it in the first place.
Maybe to prevent circulating of air? Somehow? For some reason?
The fire began near the fallen table.
Yes.
Calcium hydroxide was found in the substance on the floor there. Calcium hydroxide is formed through the reaction of quicklime and water. That reaction creates something else as well.
Heat. Yeah.
Yes. Quicklime releases 65 kilojoules of energy per mole when it reacts with water.
Thanks, nerd.
This was the method used to start the fire in this room. First, you would place a glass of water on the table. You would also put quicklime around the floor and on the table near the glass.
Okay.
When the table falls over, the hydration heat caused by the reaction would cause a fire. But why would the killer go through such a complicated plan to start a fire?
Maybe to make some sort of timer so that you could be out of the area before it started to reduce suspicion of yourself. To delay when the fire started. He just that's how he rolls. I love these, they're so good.
That's right. If all he wanted was a fire, he could have just set something on fire.
But he wanted a timer.
The killer needed to have a delay until the fire began. That's why he devised a plan that made use of 2 components.
Ceiling fan and a rope. Ceiling fan had a timer on it too, I
Yes.
believe.
This trick relied on the ceiling fan and a rope. The killer wrapped one end of the rope around the fan and tied the other to a table leg. When the fan activated according to its timer, the fan wound the rope up, flipping the table over and spilling the water onto the quicklime. However, there's still one basic question left to be asked. Why did the killer have to set the room on fire in the first place? Why go through this extravagant setup to make it happen? The reason for that is...
So Dennis's body would be found? I think that's right. He didn't want to burn down the building. I don't think he put nearly enough, like, flammable stuff in there to make that happen. Or to really have the intention of that happening, unless he's an idiot. Which might be true. Didn't want to destroy the body, otherwise he would have put the body there. He wanted Dennis's body to be found so that it would look like a suicide. Because that was the whole point of doing that whole thing with setting up the suicide, was so that they would think it, but he has to be found before the suicide option can be contemplated.
Exactly. Due to the fact that there was nothing flammable added to the body itself.
He didn't want to set the body on fire.
The culprit never intended for the corpse and the evidence to be destroyed in the fire.
In all actuality, he wanted the evidence to be there.
Instead, the killer wanted to cause a commotion that would draw attention to the corpse. Now then, why would that be?
To create an alibi. Right? He didn't want to destroy the ceiling fan. That'll teach you I always liked heaters more.
That's right. By delaying the start of the fire, the plan was to have enough time to create a viable alibi for when the fire began.
Which is when he went over to fix the other guy's thing. That makes
this
sense.
Method of misdirection, the culprit could start a fire hours after having left the crime scene entirely.
Exactly. That electrician's gonna go down for something. Secret of the fire.
This is the entire truth behind this mysterious arson.
Nope. Is there anything else we can learn? Something that doesn't quite fit here, considering the victim's cause of death. Should go check the personal effects. Sure, let's go do that. What else do we have to learn here? Found the true cause of death. There's something I have to check. That there's no screwdriver thing here?
This is odd. There's something missing that should be here. If the puncture wound in the abdomen is the true cause of death...
No blood stains from the stab wound.
Right. There should be blood stains in a hole where the screwdriver went through his clothing.
Inconsistent clothing. Is that all we got from this? I think so. Let's match the two clothing articles together.
Yes. These pieces of information can tell us something. According to Mr. Taylor's friend, on the day of the incident, Dennis had been wearing...
a red t-shirt, right? Or, yeah, I think t-shirt. Yes, excellent reasoning.
That's right. He was supposedly wearing a red Portland Jacks t-shirt that day. But when his body was discovered, it was wearing...
a white shirt.
Yes. His corpse was found wearing a white shirt. In other words, his clothing had changed. And yet, if that was all we know, we couldn't rule out if the deceased had changed his shirt himself. However, if he had, there would still be a discrepancy.
There's no indication of the stab wound. He wasn't wearing a shirt. No drugs on that shirt, obviously.
Yes. The corpse had a wound that wasn't reflected by the state of the clothing it was wearing. There's only one answer to this puzzle, and that is...
the killer made Dennis change. Killer changed Dennis. Dennis was naked when he died, of course.
Indeed. Whoever had killed Mr. Taylor replaced the shirt he was wearing after killing him. The reason for doing that was...
to make it look like a suicide. Steal his lucky shirt. That's what you get, punk. You never let me have that shirt. Camouflage.
Exactly. It was probably to hide the stab wound and make us believe the cut wrist was the cause of death. The killer staged the suicide in order to mislead us.
Glad we figured that one out.
I see. These two are related.
Oh, he broke his finger while trying to change his
There are no
shirt.
vital reactions to the broken finger. That means the damage occurred after death. Considering that the killer must have changed the victim's clothing after death.
It was broken while changing. somewhat likely. You would have had to put a lot of force into that, wouldn't you? Appearance of suicide.
That's right. The killer broke the corpse's finger while changing the shirt on the body.
Aw, crap, I left a clue behind. They're gonna figure it out now.
Dr. Kimishima, how's the investigation going?
I've almost uncovered the deception, but the truth hasn't completely been revealed.
I see. So we can't arrest the culprit yet?
I mean, we could arrest him for trying to fix the heater on a hot day.
That's right. I need conclusive evidence that can help us identify the killer.
The most reliable giveaway would be if we could find a fingerprint at the crime scene. However, only the victim's fingerprints were found when HQ searched the room.
I'm not surprised, considering the lengths the killer's gone to hide his tracks. The murderer was probably wearing gloves while the crime was being committed.
Huh. Isn't there anything the killer might have touched?
Something that would require him to take his gloves off? It's hard to think of anything.
Well, the best evidence would be on a hard, slick, inorganic substance. It doesn't matter what size it is.
All we can investigate are the crime scene, the corpse, and what the corpse was wearing. Could there be anything among those items that the killer touched with a bare hand? I'll have to investigate further. Thank you, little guy.
Just a thought, and this could somewhat be remedied by having 2 sets of gloves, but if he stabbed him while wearing a gloved hand, he would probably get blood on the glove, which would make changing him into a white shirt very difficult. But changing into a separate pair of gloves could remedy that. I don't know. Let's back up. See what's going on. We'll know for certain if we can find a fingerprint, but where can I find something hard and smooth on the corpse or the personal effects? Was there anything like that? In case I should take a look. A hard, slick substance, like a button, maybe? Oh, the other hand? Maybe the button-up shirt button?
The killer put this shirt on the victim's corpse after the murder took place. That would mean that the killer would have had to button the shirt up as well.
Though I would imagine you could still do that with gloves on.
Buttoning up a shirt with gloves on is no easy
Well, depends on what kind of gloves. If you have, like, thin rubber gloves, it wouldn't be that difficult.
If my predictions are correct,
I still wouldn't take the chance. Sure, we'll have that analyzed. Man, is every single one of these gonna be like a 2-hour mission? Seriously. Wow. It's interesting, I'll tell you that, definitely, and it kind of makes sense. But we might have to break these down in the future, using the save system, just because while I have time now, I don't know if I can quite do a 2-hour thing next time.
Aha! The buttons on the victim's clothes, huh? I'll look into them right away. One moment, please.
hopefully this will help us find the identity of our mystery murderer.
Dr. Kimishima, it was there. I found it. There's a fingerprint from someone who isn't the victim. It's, a right thumb.
Great. Run the print through the list of registered offenders immediately.
Leave it to me. Such an attention to detail has gone into this. It can't possibly be a first-time offender. There has to be a match for this fingerprint in our records.
I sincerely hope so. This case should be over soon.
Solid evidence. Killer's fingerprint. The case has been solved. What are we gonna find out?
The dead shall speak. Let's put together the truth of what happened here. The victim in this case is 30-year-old
Do we get to see a
Dennis
dramatic
Taylor.
recreation now?
As there's no motive for murder, it's a suspected suicide. However, the victim had a hidden other side. This card is the one with proof of that.
Oh good, I gotta choose it. Okay, what was the victim's hidden side? Where's that one? Here it is. Drugs.
What could I do with that?
Oh, was that not it? Murder timeline? Oh, Dennis the Pusher. Whoops.
Yes. While he did work at the bar, he also dealt drugs. This case is related to the victim's drug activities. The proof of that is on this card.
The missing drugs?
Indeed, the drugs hidden behind the shelf were missing. The killer went into Taylor's room to kill him for his drugs.
Wow.
The real cause of the victim's death can tell us that. I know that because of this card.
It's good I have all these cards on hand. Murder timeline?
Right. The wound on the wrist was not the true cause. Next, the killer disguised the murder as a suicide. This card proves the misdirection used to hide the murder.
Let's see. The appearance of suicide, yes, that one.
Yes, the appearance of suicide covered up the real cause. The next topic is the secret hidden in the room itself. The murderer used a trick to create a locked room mystery. It was made to seem as if the victim was the only one there. This card shows the trick that had been used.
Was the, yeah, that one.
Exactly. The killer thought this would clear his trail.
Oh, I see now. I was a little bit
And yet,
confused
the
about
culprit
that.
had one more way to hide from suspicion. That was to hide when the murder itself took place. This card shows how he went about that ruse.
He used the fire, right? Yes.
The murder took place 3 hours prior to the fire's start. It's natural to assume that if the room was locked, then the crime and the fire would be at the same time. The plan was perfect. No fingerprints were left in the room. However, there was one thing the killer hadn't counted
Getting
on.
blood on everything in the
There was one
room.
task he needed to remove his gloves to do. This card is evidence of that task.
I don't know about that. I think if you knew the stakes, you would probably still attempt to button a shirt with gloves on.
He probably couldn't button the clothes with his gloves on.
Just get some thin, like, rubber gloves.
No matter how small the buttons, there were still prints.
Like some really thin ones, but ones that would
Even
still
a
work.
fragment of a fingerprint can be used to identify him. The victim must have been surprised. After all, he thought the killer was a customer. This is what he said at the very end.
Final words, we're here. Stop you, no!
Stop! You! No!
Yeah.
The final flickers of this soul's light show me the truth.
I like your cool demon phone that lets you hear people's final words. It's kind of cool. Somewhat useful for a forensics person.
Who's there?
It's I, the electrician.
I'm sorry. I must have surprised you.
Wait, really? What?
You're that electrician. Why are you here?
I'm here to stab you.
Oh, I was called up because a switchboard blew.
Really?
I need to have it fixed by tomorrow.
I see. That sounds difficult.
I'll use my trick a second time. Why didn't it work again?
Freeze.
I literally just figured out who you
Don't
were.
move. I see corpses all day. One more won't bother me.
How did you think I wouldn't know? Maybe you should have brought something other than the screwdriver again. That probably didn't help clear your case.
Naomi! Are you hurt? I'm sorry. I should have stayed.
I've solved the case. I'll give you my report tomorrow.
The report can wait. Naomi, you must think of your safety.
It's okay, she kneecapped him. He's not going anywhere.
Nobody lives forever. Even if I died today, it'd just be earlier than I expected.
Is that it? Ah, there we go. Wow. Forensics. It's fun, but man, is it long. I was expecting it was going to take us maybe half an hour, kind of like the diagnosis did. And then we'd be able to go on to another mission for CRSO1. Oh, wow. Oh gosh, it's almost 1. I started this at like 11. I thought it'd take me an hour at most. Oh. Well, that was Forensics. I don't know how much fun it is to watch, because it is fairly linear. It is a lot of fun to play yourself. So maybe that's more of an experience to be experienced rather than watched. But it was fun nonetheless, though in the future I may have to break it down into half or whole hour segments rather than 2-hour segments. It was probably slowed down somewhat by the fact that they kept introducing instructions, but still, there's a lot of talking in it, and that definitely slows it down. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Loads of fun. Definitely a mixed bag, this game, but a good mixed bag. Some pretty good stuff mixed in there. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time for some more Trauma Team. Bye!